All right, welcome. Let's do some Blender optimization of models with Shrinkwrap and normal projection. So the idea is, do you see these two models? Well, one of them is really high poly and the other is very low poly, but we get similar results because we've shrunk wrap it to the size of this original one and we did a projection mapping so that it looks a lot more detailed than it actually is. So let's go through it. I'm going to create a new cylinder and I'm just going to hide the original one. So let's do a Shift A and create a new mesh. We're going to create a cylinder and you can use the size that they give you, or let's just make mine also like 1. So it should look like what you have. And then I want to go into tab to edit mode. I'm going to hit 3. So up here we have vertices, edges, or faces, and that corresponds to 1, 2, 3. So 3 is faces. I'm going to click on the top face and I'm going to shift and then click on the bottom face. I'll hit delete and say only faces are deleted. And here we have this general shape. Then I'm going to hold Alt and use my middle mouse button to get into an orthographic view. So as I rotate and I hold Alt, then I should be able to snap there. Then I also want to see the wireframe. So I'm going to go to the upper right hand corner and go to viewport shading, click that, and I will use my middle mouse button to zoom in a little bit. Then from here, I'm going to get away from the 3D cursor a little bit more than I would normally, and then hit scale. Oh, first I need to actually be in object mode, have the cylinder selected, make sure that it is selected, hit S, and then scale it down. Scale it down until its radius is pretty much the radius of the original image. In this case, yeah, this sleeve is if we do a comparison, so a normal human, and let me actually open up this collection. This is what a normal human's body is, and so this would essentially be this like puffy sleeve on them. And so that's why it's a lot smaller than that initial cylinder. Now, if we go into the cylinder, I want to use G to bring it up and move it around, but I want to isolate it to the Z axis. So I tap Z, and then I want to line it up, its bottom, with the red line or the X axis. And that is because I want to set its origin point to the 3D cursor, which is this red and white circle down here. So I go with the object selected. I want this little dot, this little gold dot here to go to the bottom. And I do that by saying object set origin to the 3D cursor, i.e. the red and white circle. So if I do that, then there's that little gold thing. And if I scale now and isolate it to the Z, now when I scale, it's only scaling the top part and the bottom part is staying. So that was good. I'm eyeballing that and it looks pretty good to me. So now I want to go back into edit mode with tab and then hit 2, click on the one of the edges and do a control R. And with that, I'm going to select, but here I can move it. I don't want to actually accept this. So before I click anything, I'm hitting escape and that will bring up this option menu. It might be minimized for you, but in the lower left-hand corner, go to loop, cut, and slide, open that up, and go to number of cuts. So here I'm going to give us 16 splits, and I will hit A to apply it. I will click actually off of it, and then I will click A, and that should be good. Now, I want to go back into my orthographic view, and I'm going to zoom in, use Shift to pan up, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to get back into my edge mode, select one of the edges, and do the same thing. Control R. This time I'm going to click and hit escape and A. That should be fine. And I will go to the bottom. I'm going to do the same thing. Control R to get into that mode, select, and then escape. And I'll click off of it, and that should be good. Now I want to select the faces, so I'm going to hit 3, and again I'm in edit mode. I will do a double click to select my entire loop. The reason I can do this is because I have an add-on. If you want to add this add-on too, you can go to edit preferences, go to add-ons, and search for loop, and then enable loop tools. Go ahead and check that, and now you should be able to double click on things and select the loop that is associated with it. So here I'm going to do the same thing. I'll hold shift, click one, and then do a double click on the next one. I'm going to do a control Z on that one because it didn't quite work. You might have to fiddle around with it, but there it's working pretty well. So again, going to rotate mode, holding Alt so I can snap into orthographic mode. And now I want to scale these things, except I only want to scale it during the X and the Y, or along the X and the Y axis, and ignore the Z. Because normally if I go like this right now, that is what's happening when I'm scaling. But I want to ignore the Z scale, so I'm going to hit Shift Z to cancel out the Z, and now I can actually just zoom in on the Z and the X. So that is looking pretty good. I'm going to go down here and clean it up a little bit by selecting the edges. I still am in face mode, so I'm going to hit 2 to get into edges. I will hit G and then Z to move along the Z axis. And I'm going to click this one as well and move this one down. So go into Z. And this is only so that my new cylinder is encompassing everything on the sleeve. Now I want to do a little bit of a UV unwrapping of this while its shape is still a normal sort of cylinder shape. So let's go into UV editing, and yours might have a double window. Mine I got rid of, so I'm going to add that by going up into the upper left hand corner and then clicking and dragging to the right. This is going to create a new window for me. And then I'm going to go to this new window, upper left hand corner, click on this grid with a little sphere on it, and I'm going to UV editor. Now I want to go over to my actual collection, select my cylinder, and then I think I can go into object mode, maybe all. No, I need to be in edit mode. And then I'm going to select all. And they should pop up here. It's actually all black right now because it's referencing an image that I made earlier. So you won't really be able to see it. Maybe if I go into this. Um, Oh, it's also because I'm selecting the puffy sleeve. Okay, so that's way better. I'm going to click on my object, select A to select all of the vertices. And so here we see this is a UV layout, but it's not taking up the entire square. So I want it to take up the entire square. I want to go to the actual image side, go to the upper sort of right hand corner and find the UV tab. And we're going to scroll about halfway down to cylinder projection. When that happens, it's going to mess up our UV, but that's okay. In our bottom left hand corner, we're going to see direction. And instead of view on poles, we want to view on, is it view on equator? Uh, no, view on poles. What's going on? Align to object. All right. Mess around with them until you get like an actual reasonable UV layout. And the other thing was clipping to bounds. If it's not doing it the whole way, then go ahead and check clip to bounds. I have all of these checked right now. You can do it however you like. After that's done, then our UV is actually laid out well, and we can get rid of this window. So I'm going into my viewport. I'm selecting in the upper left-hand corner with this crosshair, and I am going to just move it into the window to the left, and that should close it off. Then I'll go hop back over to layout mode. I am still in wireframe. I'm going to bring in the viewport shading and also bring back the puffy sleeve. So here I have the puffy sleeve, and I want to shrink wrap onto the puffy sleeve. So I'm going to click my cylinder, go to the modifier, which is the little wrench, and then go to add modifier. And then in the deform column, I'm going to go about halfway down and I see shrink wrap. Shrink wrap, it needs a target, and so I'm taking the object that I want to, like, think of it as a garbage bag going around an object, and then you take the air out of the garbage bag, and the garbage bag sucks into whatever that object is. So that's what's happening here. We're selecting a target. I'm going to select the puffy sleeve, and we get a little bit of a preview, but we don't want it to be right on it. We actually want to give it a little bit of space. So in the offset, I'm going to add a few until I, for the most part, don't see the higher quality puffy sleeve. Maybe I'll do a little extra. Just give myself a little bit of space. I see it a little bit popping out there, but that should be okay. Now let's apply this. And actually, do we want to do, so what we could do is create a triangulate. So in the generate of modifier, we're adding a new modifier and we're calling it triangulate. And we'll drag triangulate above the shrink wrap. Actually, I don't know if it even matters, but we'll go ahead and do that. And then we're going to apply the triangulate and we'll apply the shrink wrap. So now that that's done, we can actually project the normal map onto it. So we can already see that like without the high quality one there, we're getting like kind of the impression that the sleeve is there, but we don't see any of that detail. And now, in order to make that detail happen, we need to first create a material on this cylinder. So I'm going into the bottom where there's this sort of sphere with a grid on it and hitting new. I'm creating a new material. And then in the bottom left-hand corner of my viewport window where I'm getting the crosshairs, I'm going to click and drag up to create a new window. And then in the upper left-hand corner of this new window, I'm going to click and say image editor, or no, sorry, this should be shader editor. You've done it right if you're seeing principled BSDF and material output. Let's scroll to the bottom and zoom in until we see normal, and that's going to be your hint. We want to do a Shift A and then click on search for normal map. So we're going to go down and hit normal map. You will see a purple window pop up. Let's connect normal to normal, and that one's good. Now let's scroll over to the left and do a Shift A to create a new one. Let's click into search and we're going to search for image texture. Go ahead and place that one next. Let's connect color to color. We're also going to create a new texture, and this one is going to be called, I'm just going to call it T normal map, and I think this is my third one, so I'll hit C. I'll hit enter there, and then I change my width and height to 2048 to just get a higher quality image, and I want to make sure that my generated type is blank. The rest of it should be fine. Let's hit OK. Now that we have this new one, we do want to change one more thing on it. It's the sRGB color space. We want to go to non-color, and we should be good. Now in the upper right hand corner, let's bring up that crosshair and drag a new window over, and in that new window, let's click on the upper left hand button, drop down and go to image editor. Then in here we should be able to see our new image. If you don't happen to, then it might be worth doing a control save in the window, and hopefully in this area it'll pop up. So I have T normal map C, and you've done it right if you see just a big black image. And that's all you need to do there. Now we need to click our high quality image, because this is ultimately going to be the source of the normal maps. So I'm clicking on the inside of the viewport and then clicking on the outside one for the new cylinder that I have. I can tell that it's right because in here I see the texture stuff. If I tried to do it in here, I select that and then do a shift click and select the cylinder, we can see that it doesn't pop up, so it would not be working. So it has to be done inside of the viewport. So here I am selecting, I see that it's highlighting over here on puffy sleeve, and then on the outside I'm holding shift and clicking, and so now I have them both selected. Now we're hopping over to this upper, it's a camera and it's the render properties. Go ahead and click that. Make sure your render engine here is switched to cycles, and we are going to scroll down to bake. So open up your bake tab, and within bake we see bake type. This needs to be changed to normal, and then selected to active, that needs to be enabled as well. So let's enable that. The extrusion, what we're looking at is I think 3 millimeters right now, being 0.03 meters. Is that right? Anyway, so this is essentially how far out the original model should project, and then stop doing calculations. So if you want to make sure all of your stuff is in there, then go ahead and increase that extrusion, but it's the type of thing that you can play with. So with that done, we can go ahead and press bake, and hopefully if you've done it right, then it will start baking. You can see down here the Blender image is actually slowly filling up with green, and texture bake percentage is showing down here. So after about 10 seconds of baking, we have the result, and it looks amazing. All right, so this is great. Let's override these windows by getting that crosshair and dragging it over into other windows. And this is our result. And we can take our cylinder, we can use G. Let's scroll it over with Y. And these are the two compared to each other. Let's look at the wireframe. Wireframe is way more optimized. So that's it. Don't want to waste any more of your time. Hope it was helpful, and I'll check you later.